industry. It's very challenging to get promoted, even internally, because a lot of times hiring managers will bring in somebody who perhaps is proven, who's already doing the job somewhere else, whether it's in your organization or from another organization. And so you're up against, by default, you're fighting an uphill climb. And that's why it's so challenging. So, one of the first things that I want to do is talk about why we're not getting hired today and how to change that. So, one of the first things that I want to talk about there is, when you think about, and especially in today's day and age, the systems and processes that we are up against sometimes. Technology and now AI are very much a part of the process when it comes to HR, when it comes to recruiting, when it comes to the interviewing process. And so I think we're all aware that when it comes to using your resume and when you apply to a job, they're automatically looking for keywords. And let's be very frank, a lot of times they're looking to eliminate us. They're almost looking to whittle down that list of 1,000 applicants as small as possible. So one misstep here or one missed word there, you could be eliminated from that job search without having done anything wrong. The last thing we can do is take these things personally. And that, believe me, that's coming from somebody that I have counted. I have applied to 3,058 jobs in my lifetime that I didn't get. You look at my resume, you look at my LinkedIn, you would think that I've been very successful, and I have been. But it's been a lot of failure scattered throughout the way. So my goal today is to impart some of the things that I've learned throughout that. So really reframing the process. What I think is amazing about technology and frankly AI now is the ability to research your hiring manager, research your interviewer, look them up on LinkedIn, feed that or their profile or their experience into ChatGPT or other AI tools like Microsoft Copilot, shameless plug there, and be able to ascertain what is it that this person could be looking for? What might resonate? A lot of times in their own experience or about me section, they may be sharing things that are very important and near and dear to their heart, whether personally or professionally. And if you find those commonalities and those common bonds and you understand their style, you can help understand what looks like a win to that person. Everybody wants to win. Everybody has a legacy that they want to leave in the organization that they came to. Everybody on interview day, they came to an organization to achieve very specific things. And ultimately, what we're looking to do is be their problem solver, be their problem eliminator. What are the problems? What are the challenges that they're grappling with right now? How could we help them with those? And frankly, how have we handled similar challenges in the past? A lot of the interview process, it isn't about selling the interviewer. It's not about selling yourself per se. It's about de-risking their decision to hire you because of the experiences that you already have. I've been here before, so I can be valuable in these certain situations. What's crazy is I've been at Microsoft for 11 years, and a lot of times when I talk to customer executives, and even when I talk to people internally in the organization, often the biggest value that I can bring is I can demystify this behemoth that is Microsoft. I've been here 11 years. I know the resources, I know the people, I can call in favors, I can bring things to bear for people that most people wouldn't be able to do. But I am not, on paper, a prototypical cloud or technology expert. I'm just an old sales guy that's been doing this for a long time. But I'm very cognizant that the biggest value that I can bring to a team internally is the creation and understanding of processes that bring growth and help people be successful. But when I'm talking to customer executives, it's how do I unlock the maximum amount of resources from my company that will help that organization be successful? I know all the relationships, I know all the resources, I can call in favors. Heck, even just today, I got one of our most prominent strategic customers a meeting with our global chief medical officer because I knew him and I asked for a favor to meet with this customer. Most people would not be able to create that. Be very intentional and think about what is your unique value proposition? What's your unique superpower and skill or superpowers and skills that can up-level everyone you touch, everyone in your sphere? When I think about my sphere, I think about my customers, I think about my leadership. Years ago, my claim to fame at Microsoft was I basically created a demand generation engine that is guaranteed to be successful from executing sales process. And I've done it in 4 different parts of our business. That was my unique skill and superpower. It was something that nobody else had done. But I did it by listening to what our leadership was saying the biggest problems were, the biggest challenges were. They weren't having success in getting relationships with the right business stakeholders. They weren't being successful having the types of conversations that they wanted to have with organizations. Most organizations were just looking at us like a vendor, as opposed to a strategic collaborator and partner. So I had to completely change the frame. Furthermore, a lot of customers, because we showed up mostly like a vendor historically, most of our customers would lament the fact that we really only showed up when we wanted our money, when it was renewal time, annuity time. So I totally flipped the script. I showed up, I focused on the 3 things that I could focus on most prominently: the quality of my message, the quantity of my outreaches and touches, and the consistency of my execution over time in doing outreach. And over the years, I've generated well over $1 billion of revenue that never would have existed without this platform that I created. Now I've been asked to train it in 11 countries. I presented it to our CEO, Satya Nadella. But these things didn't happen overnight. And nothing you or I do will happen overnight. Some of the things that I want to do today are in part with you, some of the things that have really helped me in my career, really in tools that I picked up along the way, but also how I've helped to really reframe that whole interview process. It's a conversation. It is an attempt that we make to de-risk the hiring manager's decision. It's not all about sounding the same as every other candidate that they talk to. As you can imagine, I don't try to show up talking about or sounding like everybody else. I think sometimes we snap into a model of what we think an interviewer wants to hear, because we don't want to take the risk of sounding differently. We do what's comfortable, sometimes what I like to call comfortable ways of mediocrity. We all lean into these from time to time. We lean into comfortable ways of doing average, or what a lot of other people do. But I strongly encourage you to do the things that will give you a higher probability of success. Because again, we're talking about a process where you may have a 1 in 100 or a 1 in 1,000 probability. So don't hesitate to stand out. Don't hesitate to lean on your unique strengths and skills and superpowers. Don't hesitate to lean on your unique experiences that are going to help you de-risk their decision to hire you, and also minimize the ramp time. That's what they're looking for. They want to plug somebody in that is going to have minimal ramp, that they can give the tools and training to, that is going to ultimately be successful. And frankly, if you sound like everybody else, you're doing yourself a disservice. Maybe you think you might have a better shot of getting the job, but if you're not yourself in that process, you might wind up in a job that isn't a good fit for you. You're not a good fit for their culture. They're not a good fit for yours. And so really be intentional about that. What wins interviews? It's storytelling. It's specificity, being able to speak specifically to challenges that perhaps that leader or that organization has spoken about. What I think is amazing now also about AI is, the ability, I could plug in somebody's website, or I could plug in a job requisition, and I could ask ChatGPT specifically to tell me very specific talking points based on my own experience, that I should bring up during the course of an interview. And, while I'm a big believer in ensuring that you're authentic and human, the AI can augment what you bring to the table. And that's what I think is amazing. It can give you some insights into the interviewer, or into the job requisition, or even the company and their company reports that you may not be thinking about. Where it's helping me most right now is research. I go into so many meetings, sometimes back to back, and I don't have the opportunity. My team alone touches over 500 nonprofits in North America. And so I may be in many different customer conversations in a given day. I don't have the time that I'd like to research. But if I ask the right prompts to Copilot or ChatGPT, I'm going to get back very quick information. And frankly, to be able to speak to things that they're talking about as priorities on their website, things that have been in company reports, that can inform you when you're in an interview. And don't think about or lead with your title. I think sometimes we get stuck in titles. I think sometimes that even happens when you have an established role. A lot of people talk to me about how they want to go for or find, or they want to get their dream job. And I talk a lot about how can you infuse your dream job into what you do today. There are always things that you can do, whether it's in your organization and you want another role, or you want a promotion, Or maybe you're looking at some other North Star. You're looking at something that you might want to be doing down the road with another organization, or you're looking for your next job or what you want to be doing 5, 10 years from now. There are skills and experiences that you can be accumulating right now. I encourage you to go out on LinkedIn. Here's something you can literally do today and think about who are the, 5, 10, 15, 20 people that you would like to meet over the next 6 months to a year that could be integral in you landing your next job, in you getting experiences that you want to get. Maybe there are people that are already doing what you want to be doing. And the reason I encourage you to aim high is because, people are sometimes pressed for time. Believe it or not, not everybody that I reach out to or that you reach out to is going to respond and say, yeah, let's take a meeting right away because people are busy. But if you reach out to 20 people, I guarantee you, you'll get a call, you'll get a meeting, and you keep accumulating these things. And don't get me wrong, I'm not naive. I know that sometimes these things don't pan out immediately, right? They may not have a job opening right away. And frankly, I don't even ask for jobs. I ask for advice, I ask for guidance, I ask for feedback. Sometimes I'll say things like, I'm really interested in parlaying my experience into your industry, and I'd love to, get your feedback or guidance on where I might be a fit or other people I should meet. A lot of times, if you ask for a 15-minute meeting about feedback or guidance as opposed to asking for a job or advice on a job, you have a lot higher probability of getting it because it lowers barriers. It doesn't put pressure on the person that you're reaching out to. Because it's like today, I don't have a job opening that's out there posted, but I love meeting people and getting people on my radar because I want to have a bench roster. I'd love to have people that, if somebody leaves today, if I get somebody promoted, because as a leader, I'm always trying to create a destination team where people come and grow and get promoted. I want to have a bench roster so that I'm able to bring in more talent down the road. Those things are very, very important. So don't necessarily get caught up in your title and what you do today. Think about what are the experiences and who are the people that I could be learning from that are out there. Your resume, your LinkedIn might get you the interview, but it's your story that is ultimately going to help de-risk and get you the job. I'm going to transition a little bit and talk a little bit about LinkedIn, and then I'm going to talk about my career walking deck and kind of plant some seeds. First off, love a show of hands, and I'm aware some people might be driving, but who out there today uses LinkedIn on a regular, what you would consider a regular basis? If you could put up a hand in the chat. Outstanding. So we got a few. Okay, good. About 5 folks with hands up out of 20. So, decent percentage. All right. So 25, 30% of everybody on the call uses LinkedIn relatively regularly. All right. That's a good clip. One of the things that I realized about career over my time is the value of personal brand. And some of these things that, nowadays that, believe me, I want to start off by saying I'm an introvert. And if I say that, it's probably going to come as somewhat of a surprise. Because especially if you go out now and you look at, if you Google me or look at me on LinkedIn or YouTube, I mean, you see a lot of content, a lot of videos. That's taken every bit of 15 years to get comfortable doing. I started dabbling with personal brand in 2010 when I got laid off, creating YouTube training videos of sales and leadership. And I'll be honest with you, most of them I took down because I looked back and I was like ashamed of them. Like they weren't ready for prime time. Let me tell you right now, it's progress over perfect. The stuff that you put out there, whether it's a LinkedIn post, something provocative, I've had conversations with folks at conferences, and they've come up to me and be like, I'm planning on getting more active on LinkedIn, and I'm really writing a post and this and that. And I say, just put it out there and do it. Sometimes we got to take the flying cannonball leap into the deep end of the swimming pool. And don't get me wrong, it can be daunting and it can be scary. I've made posts and videos and written articles that nobody read, or that honestly people have given me negative feedback on. But I've also made probably tens of thousands of content contributions over the last 15 years. And by and large, it's been very positive. I've gotten over 300,000 followers on social media between Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, you name it. But again, that didn't happen overnight. Practical advice you can take today. Think about mediums that you are comfortable with, and think about your why, your unique vantage point and perspective. Because no matter where you are in your career, whether you're starting out or you've been doing this for 25, 30, 40 years, you have a valuable perspective. Other people that are starting out or early on or are laid off or are looking for their next role, all of these people have different needs. They need to hear from people like you that are going through or have gone through whatever you've gone through. If I look back on my last year of LinkedIn posts and which ones have the most like impressions, it's been the ones where I've talked about my own failures or things that I've learned throughout my career the hard way. Those are the ones that get the most play, frankly, which means what that tells me is that there's appetite out there for those types of experiences. You don't have to be perfect. And whether it's blogs, whether it's making video, whether it's things that you want to create and put out into the world, all of those things can be extremely valuable when it comes to content that you can create. There's a question in the chat about reposts. Reposts don't get as much play per se because, and it depends on the type of repost. And believe me, I've spent a lot of time trying to understand more of the LinkedIn algorithm. I don't purport to be an expert on it, and it changes often. But when it comes to reposts, it depends on what you're reposting. If you're reposting a third-party article or something that takes people away from LinkedIn, the chances are it's probably not going to get as much play. Furthermore, I find a lot of times, when I talk to people in Microsoft about developing a personal brand or what I call social selling, a lot of times people think it's, well, hey, I'm going to go out and I'm going to repost company content that talks about how great this product or this solution is. And that doesn't get a lot of play either. Most of the time when I post that, it's only my coworkers that like it. What I'm looking to do is meaningfully connect most of the time with the board or the C-level of my customer organizations. Or if I'm looking for a job, I'm looking to connect with potential hiring managers or senior executives at my target company. Or people in my own organization that are C-levels, VP level, and create brand recognition with those types of things. And those are sometimes where you can have the best informationals. And that is actually what the biggest value of what I've come to know as my career walking deck. That's the biggest value that I've found in leveraging that deck. Now, I'm going to send you a copy. I'm going to post it in the chat right now of my public-facing career walking deck. And what this is, it's basically something that I came across a few years ago. I'm going to share my screen and share this out as well for the purposes of those who are able to be watching and also want to capture on the video later. But this is a concept that I came across a few years ago. I was actually in a program internally called the Leadership Development Program. And what this actually taught me was that often when we try to connect with, have a conversation with, have an informational with, have an interview with other business leaders, we send very similar things to them. Hey, I'd love to have a meeting, talk about, any roles that you have opening, any opportunities that you have, whatever it may have you. And what I found to be more successful for me personally is to reach out and say, hey, I have a great interest in potentially parlaying my experiences and skills into your line of business. For me, it could be somebody in manufacturing or, retail or healthcare or whomever at Microsoft, right? And here's the beauty of the walking deck is it can be an appetizer and it can also be a leave behind. It can help people know you before they talk to you. If I ever have an interview set up, I send my walking deck in advance. This one is public facing. I removed all the information about specific customers. But keep in mind as you do this, and especially if you're talking to somebody internally, you can talk more about some of the things like individual wins that you've had. My walking deck anchors around specific experiences that I've had. Obviously, it showcases, hey, these are the awards that I've won inside of Microsoft, my title, my role. Something I didn't have years ago was a personal slide. But actually, when I had mentors that I connected with, they instilled in me the power of having that personal slide because people work with people. It's that simple. And, at the end of the day, whether you're a leader hiring someone or you're somebody trying to get hired, you're ultimately going to gravitate toward commonalities and things that speak. I mean, this is who we are, right? These are things that we're passionate about. I'm passionate about the nonprofit sector. I'm passionate about being in sales, and I've done a lot of amazing things experiences that I've had in Microsoft, right? On the flip side, I've got a family that I'm pretty darn proud of too, and they're good looking, so that makes me look better, right? But no, in all seriousness, it's, show who you are. Take the time to invest in showcasing who you are. The big picture, right? So balcony view. Who are you? So this is my third slide, the big picture. It's really easy to get caught in the weeds. I think sometimes on walking decks, we just list out all these facts and these experiences and these accolades. And it's like, don't get me wrong, that stuff is good and it's important. But I also want to be like very big picture. Who am I? What are some of the unique things that I've done that I think make me uniquely qualified for any sales leadership role that I may be going for? That's it. That's me. Then I like to talk about my performance. Who am I, right? Why me specifically? This is every role that I've been in Microsoft and what I've done across those roles. And if I'm talking about a sales role in my mind, sales leadership position, I definitely want to be talking about results. You want the person talking to you to be envisioning you in the role. That's how we de-risk the hiring manager decision, is them picturing you in that job. So I show how in every role I've been in here, I have far exceeded my expectations, and I've done things that have helped me stand out. I've been able to win awards. I've been able to create outcomes. So you want to think about the same thing. What outcomes have you created so that when that person is talking to you, they're going to be able to envision you in the slot? This is one that I'm proud of, the largest social selling win in Microsoft history. They weren't even a customer, and they turned into a 9-figure win. So I talk a little bit about that. Something that's valuable too is perspectives, and you can get this a number of ways. You can solicit people that you know. You can get LinkedIn recommendations. This is why I think LinkedIn is super, super valuable. Not only because of the fact that you can create your profile in a way that very much talks about what you want to be talking about. I'm going to show my profile here for a moment. And I'll be very honest with you. AI helped me write my recent byline based on some of the information that I fed to it. But furthermore, when you look at you can feature certain things that you've done. I was in the Wall Street Journal earlier this year with an article I wrote, so I posted that as featured content. Here's my last book. Here's a podcast that I was on. I will say there's a lot of value in podcasting. Podcasting is one of those things where I like to say in the pandemic, I became an accidental podcast host. If I can do it, anybody can do it. I actually just started interviewing people in the pandemic because I was lamenting that I couldn't sit around and talk about sales and leadership with people. And then I realized, wow, I can literally talk to anybody at any time. And I can, create that into video content, and I can repost it and try to start a conversation. And that's what podcasting was for me. I had people reaching out saying, hey, I'd love to be on your podcast. And I'm like, I don't have a podcast. I don't want to have a podcast because that implies commitment. But over time, I embraced it for my personal brand because it was another thing that made me stand out. You look at these things, I've done things that any one of you can do. I've written and published 5 books. It's very easy to do. You commit to a plan and you execute. You do a little bit every day. I had an outline. I wrote. I just got done with the writing process. I didn't look back. Then when I was done, I edited it. I read it over and over until I was sick of it and I was ready to be done with it. Got it published. And actually, I've self-published since then because my first publisher wasn't the best experience. And I've self-pubbed since then, and I've sold thousands upon thousands of books, which is insane to me. Podcast host. When I first started with this, I used to send emails to people. I'd go out to find people that had podcasts that I wanted to be a guest on. I was writing about sales and leadership, and so I'd go out and find people that were prominent in the sales space. Their names are Jeffrey Gitomer, Jeb Blunt, people that are well known in sales that had podcasts, and I was asking to be on their show. Say, hey, I've written a book. I have a decent following. Love to be on your show. And they said yes. And then there was a tide that turned about 2 years later where I never had to ask to be on a show again. I was getting requests, and I still get requests to be on shows constantly. And that can happen to you as well. Think about where you're an expert or where you want to, what arenas or you want to play in. and go out and start those conversations. Not everybody's going to say yes, but if you reach out to enough people, you will get the yeses. The biggest deal I ever signed, I reached out to over 500 executives that were director and above. I got in with the president, and ultimately that helped me tremendously. But I knew all of the C levels so well that over a 2-year sales cycle, there were 7 C-level changes in that organization, and they did the deal with me and with my organization because we were so well entrenched from a relationship perspective. We had earned the right to be the trusted advisor. We had de-risked their decision to work with us. They knew they wanted us to be a partner. And you can do the exact same things. Keep being intentional about where you want to invest. Could be a podcast that you create. It's very simple. You don't have to go out and buy a lot of swank equipment. In fact, most podcasts go less than 6 episodes because people get all this swank equipment. They get fired up. They do a few episodes. Nobody watches but their parents, and then they stop. But what I was intentional about doing was creating, getting it out there. I've done about 500 podcast episodes across multiple platforms over the last 3 years. Actually, no, that's not true. 5 years now. And I just keep putting them out there via social media, I went to what's now Spotify for podcasters. It's free. You can get out on Spotify today with just a recording that you make sitting in front of your laptop. So easy now to get out there. And if you have a perspective or an opinion or experiences, it's valuable. And that is what helped me become what's now known as the #1 social seller in all of technology. That wrote my ticket in Microsoft. But when it started, it was like a little snowball that has turned into an avalanche over time. In fact, my first year at Microsoft, I almost got ran off because I was doing such an unorthodox style and process. But the reality is I committed to it. I knew that it would work. And over time it did. And it won the day. But the power of what you can do with your content, to be able to put like your about section and to write very SEO friendly things. And it's all in prompts. Like I can have AI help me write these things for me to make it more aesthetically pleasing, make it more SEO friendly so that you're more findable. And again, it's a probability game. Can you find a job and get hired without using LinkedIn? Yeah, but it's going to be hard. It's going to be harder than it needs to be because guess what? People are going to look for you on LinkedIn. And the more active you are and the more quality content that you have, the more you can make yourself a thought leader. And I've been able to be very fortunate in doing that over time. When I think about this too, like with perspectives, you can solicit for these with LinkedIn. A lot of times I like to offer to trade recommendations or referrals with people. I'll say, hey, I'd love to write you a referral. If you could write me one as well, it'd be greatly appreciated. And do that for people that you've worked with before. I anonymize this. I took out the names, but a lot of these are people that I used to work for, people that had senior titles to me. And that looks really good. In fact, the top one was somebody very, very senior in Microsoft that wrote this. And so when I send that to people in Microsoft, it makes me look really good. And it helps, again, de-risk the decision. It goes a long way when people read these perspectives, perspectives of people you've worked for and with, etc. Here's the time that I got to present to Satya Nadella. There he is. I'm in the bottom right corner over here talking. What do I bring? Again, what are your unique differentiators? And then I wrote a 30, 60, 90 plan for the specific role that I was going for. What's amazing is nowadays, so much of this content is out there. It's all about standing out and standing apart. Used to 30, 60, 90 was table stakes. I think now, frankly, career walking deck is almost table stakes. Like how can you stand out and differentiate yourself from the other people that are going out there? I make it sound easy. I love that comment in the chat. Not because it is, but the things that I'm doing, anybody can do. And I can speak with confidence about it because believe me, I've tried a lot of things over the years. Some stuff works, some stuff doesn't. But I'm not afraid to try new things in order to forge new conversations and new relationships. And that's really what it's all about. And I'm always looking too for my unique value prop. I recently sent a bunch of notes out to very senior executives in Microsoft, and I got a lot of acceptances and literally just led with like a sentence byline of, hey, I've been really fortunate at Microsoft to create some replicable processes that have helped me lead successful teams. I'd enjoy connecting and seeing if I can add value for your team and your organization. I'm not looking for a job. Heck, I'm really happy doing what I'm doing. But you never know, like 1 year, 2 years, 5 years down the road, that person might become a vital contact or mentor or sponsor. And so you want to be very intentional about that. You want to think, and there's a term that got bandied around a few years ago. I had a mentor call it your personal advisory board. Who you surround yourself with is extremely important. I made the mistake for a long time of staying stuck with a lot of relationships that are tethered to some relationships that I had that were strong maybe in my 20s or my 30s, and they weren't serving me anymore. And to be really cognizant that sometimes there's people that there were people from my 20s and 30s that were reaching out to me just looking for me to bring them into what I was doing now. But when I was laid off or when I was out of work, I had no, I was like a leper. Nobody was talking to me. It wasn't like people were proactively looking out trying to help me. So the challenge is like I had to learn to help myself, but I also had to look to go out and find the people that were going to up level and upskill me right now. I had an amazing manager and mentor that I followed around the company for about 6 years. She promoted me 6 times in those 6 years. And she told me something that really stuck with me. And it's what got you here is not going to get you to the next level. So you have to constantly be looking at where do you want to go? And what are the skills that you want to accumulate to get there? And a lot of times it's going to be having to develop new muscle, which is uncomfortable. It's unnatural. But you got to keep looking at new things. I'm a 46-year-old sales guy, right? I'm a sales leader. I'm having to lean into technology and AI, and I have to be better at it than anybody else that I know, or I'm going to lose my edge. And I take that very seriously. So I could say, on the one hand, oh, well, I'm uncomfortable here. This could take my job. This could replace me. This could replace things I'm good at. Or I can lean in and say, this is going to make me a heck of a lot better than I am. Let me figure out how. And that's what I've chosen to do. There's a question in the chat. I love the idea of personal branding. Any tips on how to establish consistency and trust? Absolutely, yes. Another practical takeaway that you can take today. So carve out, what you're looking to achieve. Like if you were able to carve out over the next year, 2 years, 5 years, what you want to do, what are you chasing? What do you want your future job to look like? What do you want to be able to deliver from an outcome perspective? What is an accolade you want to gain or garner? What do you want to achieve? Think about those things and be intentional about them or write them down. And then think about what are the key relationships that you want to develop in that space? Who's out there already doing what you want to be doing? But also, how can you become more of a thought leader in the space where you have experience, superpowers, and a perspective? For me, what that turned into was dabbling with creating videos. And what's cool, again, about AI, I could create a 20, 30-minute training video with YouTube, and I could take the transcript of that video when I'm done. I could feed it into ChatGPT or Copilot, and I could have it write an article, a blog. I could have it write a LinkedIn post. I could have it write 20 Twitter posts or X posts, right? Think about the mediums that are available to you and the ones that you're most comfortable with, right? I have a blog on WordPress. I have a podcast on Spotify. I was actually asked because my podcast became popular. I was asked by 2 other people to co-host podcasts with them. So now I technically have 3 podcasts, even though I didn't even want to be a podcast host. Go figure. Be intentional about the mediums that you're comfortable with and go out and explore those. I started blogging. I started making posts on LinkedIn regularly. I usually try to make about 2 or 3 a day. And then the other element is a lot of times you can, one piece of content can actually become, multiple additional pieces because it could be short posts. I could take a 20-minute, 30-minute video that I make, and I could make snippets of that video and turn each one into a post. Somebody instilled in me years ago to leverage social media to stay top of mind with your target audience. But also what I think is important about it is how can you use it to start a conversation? So be intentional. So when I think about my personal brand, what I do from a post perspective, I think about how can I start a conversation today? What's top of mind for the people that I want to talk to or learn from or be considered a thought leader from? And I'll do research. Sometimes I'll even ask Copilot or ChatGPT, what are most salespeople or what are most sales leaders struggling with? And that might be the post that I write today. So there's a lot of ways that you can, kind of fashion or brand your brand to meet those people that you want to create relationships with. Honestly, I got a lot of my followers because I have 250,000 followers on X. I went out and found people that were doing what I wanted to be doing, and I followed their followers. And I kept being consistent with content, and I just got so many followers over the years. Very similar with LinkedIn. Um, just being consistent with creating content. And there's different ways you can create content. You can actually create a newsletter on LinkedIn that goes out to all of your followers every single day where they get a notification that you made the post. So that's one area where you can put something out there every day that's going to get attention, guaranteed. Then LinkedIn algorithm also really likes personal photos. You can post a personal photo with something that you want to say, and it's going to get more likes because it's not directing people away from the platform, but it's also something that is relatable and personable. And the LinkedIn algorithm favors that, and that will get you more impressions and engagement and ultimately followers. And that's what you're looking to do. You're looking to start a conversation. Don't get lost in the vanity stats and the metrics. I never put too much stock and faith in that. What I do like to do is start a conversation. So even if you may write a post, sometimes I'll run my post through Copilot or ChatGPT and I'll say, how can I make this more personable? Or how could I, what's a question I could ask at the end of this that would be more provocative or start a conversation? Because that's what you're looking to do. You're looking to say something poignant, but you're also looking to start a conversation and be memorable. And those types of things have helped me tremendously over time. Um, yeah, as I kind of head towards wrapping up, I do want to touch on a couple other things when it comes to personal brand and LinkedIn. And again, I really hope that this has been valuable today, but this doesn't have to be a one-off. If you have any questions or want to have conversations, or I can leave resources for you, please feel free to reach out, connect with me on LinkedIn. But as I kind of sum up and I think about what this is all about, future career, thinking about not overselling yourself, thinking about interviewing like a pro without sounding like a sales pitch. It's really all about getting comfort, and you're going to gain more comfort with at bats. I've benefited from the fact that I've been laid off, I've been fired, I've been through mergers and acquisitions. Heck, one year I won the biggest award in the company, and my job was eliminated the same week, and I got moved into another job. So a lot of these experiences have happened, and it's made me very much realize that nothing good or bad lasts. And I always try to be the guy that I pledge to be on interview day. A company and you enter into a contract on that day that you're hired. You agree to be the person that you pledge to be on interview day. They agree to give you the tools and the training and the resources to be successful. That doesn't always happen, right? They don't always meet their end of the bargain, but I can control what I bring to the table. And I've never let a number be next to my name that wasn't indicative of my best. That is a conscious decision that I have made. LinkedIn is like a billboard for you. You literally have the ability to put yourself out there with a banner, with a headline, an about section, a professional picture, content that's indicative of who you are and what you're all about. You can show your work, but more importantly, show your experiences, the problems that you solve, and the outcomes that you deliver. That's what's most important. That's how it doesn't come across as a sales pitch. You want to be a storyteller. You want to be a meaningful connector. You want to attract and not chase. Hiring managers are going to check you out before the interview. So it's important to make sure that your LinkedIn is indicative of who you are and what you're all about, and you make that research easy for them to find the things that you want them to find about you. How I did it, I talked about my books. Heck, I've shared full chapters of my books as little posts or nuggets on my profile. I've shared takeaways from, failed experiences that I've had. I celebrate other people publicly. Things that you can do that are free, that are easy to do. Recognizing others, showing that you're a good cultural fit for where you want to go and where you want to be. Those types of things has helped me tremendously, because if you're invisible online, you're invisible to opportunity. And I've really realized that over the time. So a couple of last thoughts, and I'd love to open it up for any additional questions. But, really, it's when you think about jobs that you've gotten and you think about the reasons why. Often I find that there's a lot of success in leaning into our strengths as opposed to trying to shore up all the things that maybe we think or other people think are our weaknesses or areas for opportunity. I think about the reasons that I've gotten jobs. I've almost always gotten jobs because of relationships, sometimes because of reputation, but mostly the relationships I form. So think about the people. Again, going back to your network is your net worth. Go back to the people that are in your network that you want to work with or that you want to work for. Talk to them. Get back on their radar. See if there's ways that you can serve them today. See if there's ways that you can shadow them. See if there's ways that you can learn from them, or if they'd sponsor you for another potential opportunity, or if there's introductions that they can make for you. Um, think about a job description for a role that you might be going after. Feed it into ChatGPT or Copilot and ask it to pump out a LinkedIn profile summary of you that would attract roles like that. It's all in the prompts with AI. AI can help us and it can point us to better outcomes and material, but we've got to ask it for the right things. And then also just looking for ways to frame your unique value. Those are the types of things that can really help you. It's often very small tweaks that make all the difference in the world. None of us need to drastically change our approach to how we govern or navigate our career or even our day-to-day job. Often it's just very small tweaks that we have to do. It's the things that we're doing to up level. It's the ways that we are meaningfully connecting with others. Maybe it's the number of people that we're connecting with or the way that we're showcasing our personal brand and our experiences. Those types of things can really make all the difference in the world. Um, I've said a lot, so I'd love to open it up if there's any additional questions. And Ahmed, want to make sure that this is hitting the mark for you and see if there's anything else that you want to make sure I touch on before we close out.
Oh my God, this is amazing. This is a ton of wisdom, Carson. Thank you so much for this, summarizing all your career, all your, insights and definitely lots of takeaways that I personally, took notes here, and I'm sure, others here did the same. We definitely, don't want this to stop, and I really appreciate, your energy and, your thoughts and definitely ideas. Everything that you said today, made a lot of sense to everybody who's listening, and how to really invade this tough market. It's a really tough market today. Um, I maybe have some questions, and again, we will maybe stop on the top of the hour to take a group selfie together, if you don't mind. And then again, if you're okay, maybe to stay a couple of more minutes. If anyone have more questions, then we can do that. Otherwise, we can leave it there. So I think one of the questions that struck my mind. You said de-risking the hiring manager decision, and this is definitely something that is not easy for folks to figure out. How can I first understand what are the risks of the hiring manager
Yeah.
so that I can put myself in a position to de-risk it. So if you want to maybe share some ideas about how to figure out this one, and also maybe another question, but I'll let you finish this one first, and then I'll ask you the other one.
Yeah. When I talk to a hiring manager, I want to know what are their biggest challenges, what are their biggest problems, and what looks like a win to them. Because I want to frame my mind around, okay, how can I be a problem solver and not a pitch? How can I match to their needs? That's the power of research. Not only like what I can see on their LinkedIn profile or their company reports or their company website and being able to align directly to their mission, but if I can hear from their own mouth what they're looking to do, and I ask leaders like, what do you want your legacy to be at this organization? What makes you tick? Because the more I know that, the more I know how I can convey myself as the logical choice, the obvious choice for getting that role. And again, I say that I feel like I've been the obvious choice for every job I've ever gone for, and I've applied to 3,058 jobs that I didn't get. So my point in saying that is you're not guaranteed to get a job. You got to get the planets to align sometimes, but you absolutely want to bring your A game every single time you get up to the plate. That's super important, and you never know. Now you're on that person's radar. They may be a possible hiring manager at a future role down the road. They may know somebody that you might want to interview with down the road. So you've always got to show your A game, but do your research. Use their job posting like it's a cheat code. How can you mirror their language in the job description and their priorities? As you're looking to de-risk their decision, talking about tangible impact and outcomes that you've driven before, that are going to speak directly to what they're trying to do. And that's why I ask about their challenges. What are they accountable for? Because then I can speak in their language and show, hey, I totally understand. I'm tracking with you. You're talking about these KPIs, these things that you're going after. This is how I operated when I was in a similar situation. I had to be careful though, because one time somebody asked me how I felt about the transition or the ramp time, and I think I came across as too confident because I said something like, "Oh, I can hit the ground running. I could come right in and do this immediately. I don't see a challenge with that." You also don't want to undermine, or undervalue, the unique nuances of working for a team or an organization. So I always like to say, I feel very confident that I can step in and, be ready to embrace the challenges there. I'm not naive to think that there wouldn't be some ramp time, but my goal would be to meet with you, meet with my colleagues, meet with others that have a stake a horse in the race when it comes to this role, so that I can really soak up as much as possible. That's going to help me shrink that ramp time and make the transition easy so that I can add value for you as close to day one as possible. Um, what not to do? Um, don't talk about like just different, tools, or things that you've done, or jargon. Don't talk at the person. Don't leverage I the whole time. I find a lot of benefit when I'm referencing teams that I've been a part of in the past, where it's, hey, at the prior organization, my team and I were able to do blank. Especially if you were at the helm of that team, or you were a leader, it's going to make you look a lot more effective because it's showing like it was together that we achieved these outcomes. Um, Ask the person, what does success look like in the role? Have them frame that up, because that's going to help you match yourself to them. And then you can, frankly, share your experiences and wins that align with you doing just that.
Amazing. Again, we can't get enough, of your time and wisdom, but this is definitely a lot of insight that we can take away. So maybe a quick one more question that I think most of the folks would be curious to ask. Again, definitely, Carson, you've been in a lot of situations that made Carson what you are today. What do you recommend in terms of books, trainings, or situations to become as efficient as you? You were very focused in your speech for almost an hour, which is not an easy thing. Every one of us, I personally admit that I cannot do this myself, and I'm still learning. So, what do you recommend in terms of books, trainings, or let's say volunteering, or whatever experiences that folks need to do in order to become an effective leader in their organization? And definitely sales is another topic, maybe.
It's a great question. I'm looking back at some books that have been really important for me, but I'll also say what's helped me develop an alligator skin or a lot of calluses in my career has honestly just been getting knocked down. It's been getting fired. It's been getting laid off. It's being counted out. It's having a manager try to get rid of me my first year as an account executive. And then I bounced back and won the biggest award in the company 2 years in a row and got 6 promotions. Um, it was a very intentional reason for the posters that I have back here. So this is Rocky Balboa, and it's a quote from Rocky 6, where he says, "It ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward, how much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done." And The Color of Money, which is basically you've got Fast Eddie Felson, Paul Newman, and Tom Cruise was his protege, Vincent Loria. And it's all about becoming a student of whatever you want to be. I've spent a lot of time consciously studying what has worked and what has not worked throughout my body of work, and I'm constantly reinventing myself. I'm constantly evolving, to the point where if I get laid off, if I get a new job or bounced around or counted